Hello again, and in this assignment I'm going to show you how to make your own custom brushes in GIMP. So first thing I want to do is go into GIMP itself, and for this assignment we're going to do 800 by 620 pixels, 300 pixels per inch. So we're going to go up to File, New. We're in pixels, so that's good. So 800 wide by 620, and notice here I already have 300 pixels per inch as a default, so that should be set up there. If not, you can go to advanced options and change that if you need to. Okay, so click OK, and basically the idea here is we're going to make our own brushes. So you want to make sure that your background layer is white. If it isn't, just change your foreground color up here, grab your paint can, and fill it in with white here, okay, by clicking in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to make 6 layers here, and on each of those layers we're going to make a new brush. We're going to make a custom brush. So first thing I'll do is make 6 layers. Now here is my create a new layer window down here on the bottom left here. You can click that and then you get this annoying menu. Click OK. Or you can hold down Shift, and if you hold down Shift it'll just make the layers without having to say OK every time. So I'm holding Shift and I made my 6 extra layers here. And each of these layers are going to have a name for the brush that I'm using. Okay, so let me close this so you can see something else. So let's say that now you want to start playing with the brush editor. You want to make your new brushes, but your brushes window can't be seen. Well, you got to select your brush tool up here. Let's say paintbrush tool, and still nothing comes up, no editor. If it's not showing up, what you can do is go up to Windows, Dockable Dialogues, and then you just choose brushes. And voila, there they are. So if they don't show up again, Windows, Dockable Dialogues, Brushes. Okay? And this is the window you want. You want to see all your brushes that you have in GIMP here. And you can see you have a lot. But let's say you just feel like making your own. You want to experiment. You do have a limited set of tools that you can use to make your own brushes. So what we're going to do is make 6 unique brushes, each on its own layer here. Okay? So let's say you click on one of these and you want to try to edit it. Again, if you go up here, edit this brush. You can edit the brush that I can edit this because I made this, okay? But most of these brushes you cannot. Oops, let's go back here to the brush menu. Most of these that are pre-made, you can't edit them. So if I go up here and then I click this icon, edit this brush. Notice here, it's not letting me. So a lot of these pre-made brushes cannot be edited, so you're just going to have to live with that. Okay, but what you can do is click on this icon, the second from the left underneath the brushes here, create new brush. So I'm going to click there, and notice here I've got a starting shape, which is a kind of a rounded shape. So let's go with that. If I bring the radius slider up, it's going to make it larger. And look how huge that is on the canvas. That's way too big. So we're going to dial this back, usually maybe there or maybe even smaller. Probably 20 or so would be good. Now here's one called spikes. If you drag this up, it'll increase the spikes in your the sticking out of your sphere. They're hard to see there unless you turn up the hardness here. And now if I back this off, we're not seeing too much there. But now if I change the aspect ratio, you can see that I've created a few there. Okay, now with that, I can probably change the spikes. And notice there I'm just adding more to it, or less here. And you can get even something like that would be kind of cool. So if you play with all, these are the tools you're basically going to play with to create your object. And here spacing will determine the space between each stroke. Let me change this foreground to black here. Now watch. There's a line there that I created with that. But watch what happens when I increase the spacing way up high. Notice there's a bigger gap between the lines. So that's kind of interesting too. Control Z will undo it. If you turn the hardness down, again, you're going to get more of a feathered kind of approach, which is kind of neat in that way too. So you can get some lighter textures there too. Changing the angle, of course, will add a nice different effect as well. Let's bring the radius up just a hair. And you can see there it's creating a nice stroke with a gap between it. So if we bring that spacing back down, you're going to see these come closer together. It's very gradual, so sometimes you got to go extreme. I like that. So let me bring that along with the hardness down a little bit more, and that'll be one of my strokes there. Okay, I like that. So I'm going to go up here now, and to create a straight line, I'm just going to click once there, and then I'm going to hold down Shift and go to the end of the canvas here, and then when it looks straight to me in relation to the ruler up here, I'm going to click. Now notice I took my hand off the Shift there, so let's try that again. Keep your hand on Shift and then click, and there you go. Now you've got pretty much we're close to a straight line. It wasn't perfect there. So take your time here until it looks about right, and as close as you can get to a straight line. So that'll be my first brush, and I'll call that feather, or feather in my cap. It looks kind of like a feather, right? So feather would be a good one for that one. Okay, now we're going to go to the next layer, which is layer 4, and we're going to create a new brush. Okay, so on this one, let's use a different shape. So we're going to use the square on this one, and notice there, it's created a similar kind of brush to this one that I already made. However, if I change out the radius, the aspect ratio, I can create a whole different thing here. Now notice there, that's kind of interesting. I can change the angle here too if I want. Maybe make a few more spikes on this one. Well, maybe that's too many. And let's go ahead and work on the angle here too. Okay, an aspect ratio. That's kind of interesting right there. And let's bring the hardness up on this one, okay? Ooh, that radius is huge, right? So I'm going to grab this slider and bring it down to about, like I said, about 20. That's 16 there. And that creates an interesting line. I like that, how it's kind of serrated on the edges there. That's a cool, interesting looking line. Control Z will undo those. Maybe just bring the hardness down a little bit more to create a little more of an edge around it, or softer edge. That's kind of interesting too. I like that. So let's do that one. And so I'll start here, hold down Shift. I'm going to go across, try to do a straight line in relation to the other one. And that looks pretty good. I'm going to call that the caterpillar because it has some almost some fur on the outside with these circles. So that one's caterpillar. So I'm going to name each layer. Okay, and we'll go on to the next one. Oh, by the way, if you go up to the top of your brush screen up here on the right, the document all the way on the top, it looks like a white sheet of paper with the actual brush in the center. That's your brushes. If you click there, you're going to notice that your brushes are automatically saving in here. I just wanted you to be aware of that. It's really easy. You don't have to do anything other than just create the brush, and it automatically saves in here. I love GIMP for that. That is a nice move on their part. Okay, so this is our caterpillar. Next layer here, we're going to create, let's do a new one here. So again, you got to make the document here, click create a new brush, and let's use the pyramid this time. And again, let's bring the radius up so we can see it. All right, and let's change the hardness on this one. That looks pretty cool. Aspect ratio, we can change that up. We can change the angle. Let's do a completely different angle than the other one. And of course we can adjust the hardness. Let's make this one harder than the other brush. And let's check out the spacing here. Let's change up the spacing. It's kind of interesting. Let me bring the radius up on that a little bit. Oh wow, that's cool. I love that. Maybe bring the hardness down a little bit. Maybe a little bit of a feather. Um, that's cool too. So again, experiment with your levels here. That's kind of neat too. I like it. I do like it kind of feathered, although it does look a lot like the other one. So again, let's bring up the hardness a little bit more so it has a little slightly bit difference than the other one. Almost. Let's go. We might as well just go up pretty extreme here. That would probably be more unique from the other one. I like that. Spacing wise, looks pretty good. Let's see what happens when we join them together a little more. Well, that's a neat line too. I like that. So space it out just a little bit more. Looks pretty good. Maybe just a little bit more. And I think that'll be good. That's completely different. I like that. We'll call this one serrated edge. Radius is much too big again at this point. Let's bring it down some more. Probably looking at 30, 20 to 30 maybe. Let's go a little bigger. So, it depends on the brush, but that'll determine your size that you're using. That looks pretty good. Maybe a little bit more. Alright, so we're going to click once in here, hold down Shift, bring it out to our straight line here. And voila, let's call that saw blade. I said serrated, but I like saw blade. So again, you're trying to create different brushes that each have their own unique characteristics. They shouldn't be too much alike at all. Okay, so that's saw blade. Let's do another circle here. So again, you want to click on new brush every time you're going to make a new one. So go back to your brushes menu. Up here on the top, click brushes. Click the document, create a new brush, and let's go ahead and let's go back to a circle. Okay, let's bring up the radius a little bit so we can really see it. Okay, that looks cool. I kind of like just a regular feathered brush like that. Let's see what else we can do with it though. Maybe change the spacing on it. Okay, that's kind of neat. Let's bring that back a little bit. That looks a lot like the caterpillar, so we're not going to do that. Let's change the angle of it too. Let's see if we can, or the aspect ratio would be the way to do it, I guess. And then the angle now is we can actually play with the angle. Let's go a slight angle with it. Again, we're going the same way as the other one. Let's go opposite, and then it comes out opposite on the canvas. So that's looking kind of neat. Let's bring the hardness down to the extreme. You still get that hard edge in the center, which I don't like. But there you can see you get less of it. So let me bring these closer together, and then maybe that will work. That's kind of cool. It's just kind of a feathered line there. Let's bring them apart a little bit more. Let's do a little bit more. And again, you can also go to the arrows up here. Like that. So that's too much. Let's bring it down to about 15. 14 and a half is good. Okay, that's getting better. Okay. And let's see if we can change up a couple more things. Let's add a few spikes in there. Let's see if we can change that up a little bit. That's kind of neat. It's a little better. Let's go on. Let's keep going with that. That's kind of got a unique look there. We can call this double vision, right? So that one's just kind of just a straight line with a feathered edge on it. Let me bring up the hardness just a little bit more on that. That'll work. Let's do that one. So here I'm going to grab or click once, push shift down and go across, and there's our next line. It's a little big, so let me try that again. Let's bring down the radius to about 35 maybe. That should work. And then hold down shift again, don't forget. That's still a little bigger than I wanted. Let me go back down to 27. That should work. Okay, hold down shift again. All right, so we have 4 there now. We're going to call this one again double vision. Or better yet, nearsighted. That's my issue. Nearsighted. Okay. So let's go to the next one now, and let's try a square again, I guess. Oh yeah, we have to go back to brushes, and then click new. And we're going to do a square this time. And again, let's bring up the radius a bit. Bring it up to about 24, let's say. We can adjust the angle. I kind of like a pyramid. That's kind of neat. And that one is spaced together pretty close. Let's space it apart a little bit more. Starting to look cool here. Let's see what else we can do with the spacing. It's looking a lot like some of the other ones. Let's change the aspect ratio a little bit. That looks neat. That's a unique kind of perspective there. Let's bring up the hardness on that. Okay, it looks kind of interesting. And we can do some spikes too and create a different shape as well. All right. All right, so let's bring up the spacing a little more. I like that. Now it's starting to look interesting. That's unique too. I'm going to keep that. Maybe bring down the hardness a little bit. Let's feather it. Yeah, it looks pretty interesting. Kind of looks like this one up here though, so maybe I'd change something out here. Can adjust the aspect ratio a little bit. And there you can see I got a nice unique shape going on there. And I like the feathered edge on this edge, so I'm going to decrease the hardness a little more. And I really like that, so I'm going to keep that. I'm going to go down here, we'll figure out a name for it, and let's see if I can bring that radius down just a hair, down to about 20. 17 is good. Okay, and I'm going to go across here, hold down shift, get about a straight line as close as I can, and you can see there it's got some really neat detail on there. Okay, and let's call this pattern. Just because I'm not very creative right now. Pattern. All right, now we're going to go to the last layer and create our last brush, and then I'll show you how you can organize these a little bit more. And we're going to just go ahead and let's see, the last one I think we used a circle, and then we used a square. Let's go on this one again. Again, radius, come up a little bit, maybe 21. And we've got some stars there, which is kind of interesting. Let's bring down the spacing and bring down the hardness and see what that looks like. And that's kind of a unique, interesting look as well. It looks a little like the caterpillar, but maybe we can change some of that up a little bit. Adjust the angle here. And, well, let's bring the spikes down here and see what we get. Ooh, I like this. But again, it's starting to look just like the other one in the beginning. So let's bring the spikes back up. Here's 3 of them. That's kind of interesting too. Oh yeah, that's cool. That's totally unique. We'll call that one fishbone. I like that. So I'm going to click my last one here. I'm going to leave it the way it is. I like the hardness to it and everything. So, oh yeah, that's fishbone there. So we've got some unique brushes here. And that's what you want to do. That's your goal, is to make them as unique from each other as possible. So we have feather. So here I can go up here, grab my move tool on my toolbar, and just click anywhere in the black of the brush area, and I can move that whole thing up. Okay, and now I'll go down to caterpillar. Just go right in the area. My crosshairs will go right in the black of the brush, and I can move that up. Go to saw blade, same thing. Move saw blade up. Here's nearsighted. Move that puppy up. Now here's pattern. I got to come up with a better name for that. Oh well, I have a lot of time on my hands, right? It'll come to me in a dream. All right, so here's my last one, fishbone. And now you can see they're all laid out nicely here. And all you need to do now is save it out. So this is assignment 10, I believe. Or is this 11? Oh, I can't remember anymore. I think this is assignment 10. So you go File, Save. We're just going to save it as an XCF file or a Photoshop file if you're doing this in Photoshop. And just you put the number of the assignment plus your last name. And again, you want to keep it as a GIMP file or a Photoshop file so I can see your layers and I can see the brushes that you created. And you're going to send me the XCF file or the PSD file. Click Save. Now I can close this. And basically, there it is right there. It's a GIMP file. That's the file I'm going to attach. It's an XCF file. And I'm going to send that to Mr. Acker or Professor Acker. Okay, so good luck and have fun making brushes.